Why is it that we allow for geniuses to have their process, but we don't respect our very own? What does your design say about your process? And the place we see where people, how we treat ourselves, it is process. Is it repeatable? Like, can you do it over and over and over again? Is it enjoyable? Like, are you happy to do it? And is it profitable? As we look at how to get double the results with half the effort, one of the things we have to examine is our process. And in this session, I'm going to be talking to you about your ingenious process. What is it that you were designed for? And can we find your process from who it is that you are? I believe that we can. We can find your master code, and that's exactly what we are out to do. Before we do, I need to know if anyone remembers this company, the Kodak Eastman Company. Anyone recognize the image to the right? It's a digital camera. Without Googling, how early do you think that was invented? What year do you think that was? The 90s, 2000s? A man named Steve Sasson actually found a way to create digital photography in 1975. He worked for Kodak Eastman, and for them at that time, their process was built on selling film. He offered them a newer, a better, an emerging process, but they couldn't take advantage. They were too connected with who they had been since 1888, and they couldn't see what was the opportunity that was in front of them. And my hope is that as you're looking at this, I do want you to look at some of the processes you've had that are good, some of them that maybe are competing against what it is that you want. And the hope is that if you see a new process, a new program, you will be able to choose without being fixated upon the old. But let's not be like Kodak Eastman. James Clear said this. He says, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Now, I do like to break it into 3 different categories. You have the very first part of anything is an action. If you can repeat an action, that action becomes a habit. If you have developed habits and rituals and things that should be done over and over and over again, like your perfect way of doing things, you now have a process. And if you've developed something that is good for everyone to do, you now have a system. And I believe that these are things that are ingrained within us. I don't know how a laboring mother knows how to do the things that she does. Her body does amazing and wonderful things. But I do remember when we were having the first of our 8 children versus when we were having the rest. And my wife was so surprised with what her body was doing. She had no idea what was happening. And the result of it was 30-something hours in a labor and delivery. But the cool part about it, guys, is that when it came time for her to do this again, and then again, and then again, she knew that she could trust herself with what was about to happen. She knew that somewhere she knew the process. So even though she didn't know it here in this cerebral frontal cortex, somewhere in her brain, she knew. And she learned to trust herself. And that is one of the hopes that I have here, is that you are going to look, reflect, inflect, and find processes and programs that can help you to go in the direction that you want. Before we go there, I want to talk about a few other processes, and all geniuses have them. Nikola Tesla, he would sleep for 2 hours a night and take 2 20-minute naps every single day. He said that was a part of his genius process. That's how he released something that was special inside of him to get to the outside. Of course, we have all seen works by this artist, Salvador Dali, And what he would do is he would fall asleep with something metallic in his hand above a frying pan. And when it would fall, strike the frying pan, he would wake up and he would draw or paint whatever it was that he was seeing in this half dream state. That was a part of his process, of his genius. Of course, Benjamin Franklin, he had a couple of processes. One of those I really loved. He would start every morning asking himself, what good shall I do today? And he would end every single day of his life saying, what good did I do today? Side note, I wonder if he ever said, good will I do today? I think I will get on the $100 bill. That's a cool thing. He also had another interesting process where he would air bathe for at least an hour a day. And that's where I guess for him, he would sit naked in a room with just the air around him for an hour. And somehow that provoked his creativity. Of course, prolific writer, inventor, creator, and all of the things he did. How about this guy? Steve Jobs. A part of his process was to have the exact same outfit in his closet, black turtleneck, jeans. We all have seen the patented Steve Jobs clothing and attire. The whole goal was to eliminate a need to think and rethink. That was a part of his process. If I did that, you'd probably think I was weird. But here's a question I have for you. I have two questions. The first question is, why is it that we allow for geniuses to have their process, but we don't respect our very own? And the second question is this: what does your design say about your process? Do you respect your process? Do you see yourself as the Michelangelo of your profession, and you understand what it takes to get genius results from yourself? If you don't, this is the session for you. Before we go into that, though, I want to know, what does your design say about your process? If you want to see what someone thinks of themselves, high or low, how they value themselves, high or low, look at how they treat themselves. And the place we see where people, how we treat ourselves, it is process. What if we began seeing our process as an expression of our belief? I have quoted this Gandhi quote so many times, but it so belongs here. He says this: my life is my teaching. And for you, what are you teaching others about the way you treat yourself and the way you treat your work? Let's look at an example by the Dabbawalas in Mumbai.
In the age of food delivery apps like Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, and DoorDash, it's hard to imagine this type of convenience without the technology. But there is one food delivery service which sends out more than 200,000 meals a day and has been doing so for the past 130 years. They are the Mumbai Dabbawalas, also known as Dabbawalas. In about 4 hours, they deliver home-cooked meals to people at work every day, and all without using modern technology. Mumbai Dabbawalas employs about 5,000 people. Many of them have had little to no education and have never learned to read. So how do they keep these orders in order? The Dabbawalas get on their bicycles around 9 a.m. and pick up homemade lunches from their assigned neighborhoods, which are generally the same every day, using what's called dabbas, or Indian lunchboxes. After picking up the lunchboxes, usually made by the partners, parents, or house staff of the intended recipient, they have until 10:30 a.m. to bike to the nearest train station. Over the next hour, they load all of the lunchboxes on the train. This is where keeping track of everything gets really tough, but they use a pretty basic trick. A vital part of their delivery service is a coding system, so the lids are labeled with letters, numbers, and symbols indicating where these lunchboxes have to be delivered to, who's delivering them, and the homes where they came from. Between 11:30 and 12, the Dabbawalas offload from the train and continue sorting. Between noon and 1, they deliver lunches to their clients. During this hour, over 200,000 deliveries are made across Mumbai.
They all kind of have to work together in harmony in order to allow sort of the Dabbawalas to perform sort of at the level of performance.
The Mumbai Dabbawalas are known for being punctual with their deliveries. Their mission statement since they first started running in 1890 has been to always deliver on time.
They believe that delivering lunch is like delivering medicine. And so now as a mission statement, right, when you sort of think about that, you're not just delivering lunches to people, you're saving people's lives.
The Dabbawalas don't just deliver lunches to people at work. They also pick up lunch boxes from the individuals after they're done and deliver them back to their homes the same day. All this efficiency has the business community intrigued, including Harvard Business School, which has done a case study.
The simplicity of sort of how they do things actually help them so they don't have to deal with sort of a lot of complexity that we sort of typically find. So sometimes, keeping things quite simple and be laser focused on what it is that you're trying to achieve is really important.
Tomke spent a day with the Dabbawalas in Mumbai for his research and thinks companies around the world can learn from the Mumbai Dabbawalas. In an age where we are so focused on modern technology, sometimes the best plan is the simplest.
Pretty amazing, right? How do you take people, mostly who are illiterate, and help them to stick to the promise of being accurate and on time? And how do you do that? Starting 130 years ago, before technology to do this existed, these people better than Uber Eats and DoorDash. Here's how. They said they felt like food is like medicine. They felt like they framed it as though they were delivering medicine to people. And I want to give that another point. There's another interview I watched with them where they said they view delivering food to people as an act to God. So making their work their religion, making their work a mission, allow them to frame what they're doing in love. And I'm going to tell you this, that preceding everything that we're ever going to put into a process, the most important thing you can do is create a scenario to where what you feel like you're doing in your work is love. Love is the greatest instructor of all things. So I'm going to break it down and give you some ways of creating your process. But I would say, start here. Start from the place of love. Start from a place of, am I in love with who I'm serving, with how I'm serving? Do I feel like this is an act to God? And if you can frame your work that way, watch how it transforms the way you do what you're doing without effort. It is my favorite. It's self-instructional. It is self-instructional. That's the cool part about that. So there are multiple different types of processes going from personal habit to a business process. A process is a personal system for doing things. And it simply means that you know how something starts, how to begin, how to actually do the work, and how to end, and what to do in the in-between. Once we have good processes, by the way, we want to learn and see if we can create systems from that. But that's a different time and a different place. One of the places we want to start, guys, is from your personality. You know that I'm not a proponent to say that you are who you are and it always stays the same, even though the Clifton people and Gallup research, they've actually done research that says whoever you are, you pretty much are that person. I actually believe that you can transform and become something new, but why not work from the program that you already have? If you are a hero, if you are a jester, if you are the explorer, if you're the outlaw, if you're any of those, you probably want high energy, like you want a fast pace with what you do. It's good to know the pacing. If you are a caregiver, if you're an everyman, if you're a lover, if you're a jester, you probably want to involve people as a large part of your process. If you are the sage, if you are the magician / shaman, you want to make sure that you are involving some sort of knowledge gaining in your process. If you're the ruler, if you are the magician, if you're the sage, you probably need to make sure you have a heavy dose of planning in what you do. So every type of person has a mixture of things that should be ingredients, of things that are a part of what is your fuel towards getting what you want. So think pacing, think ingredients, think talents, right? Think those things. Those are unique to the different personality types. And as you create your process, I want you to, let's not just look at the things that you can do, but the things that give you energy as you do them. Times, like what are the different times of the day? Who you are when you show up at your house is not the same you that shows up in front of your top client. I got a great tip from Brendan Burchard in his book, High Performance Habit. And what it is it's location and time dependent. So you can either set an alarm or like if you show up in a location, geolocationally, you get this reminder. And so for the last few years, every time I show up at my house, my phone says, bring the joy. I have an alert that is set up for that. By the way, I'll put instructions on how to do that. If you have an iPhone, I'll put those in the, put a link for that below. But different times require different things. And one of the things you should be doing is asking yourself, who is it that I'm supposed to be? And what is it that I want to bring? Who am I, and what do I want during this time? Next is structure, right? We want to be looking at the structure of process. And then preference. What's your preference? Do you want fast pace, slow pace? You want to really be digging into one thing? Do you want to, what are your preferences? Your preferences are completely valid here, because what we're looking at is really how the artist works, and you are that artist. You are. Finally, we're going to be looking at how do we create flow? And flow is when you're doing your best work and it's almost effortless. Love that idea. It's always something that I seek to create when I'm working with people. So here are the things I want you to look at. So as you're creating your processes, I want you to look at, we're working with your business processes. So you can open up your calendar right now and look at all of the different tasks that you do. You might be in charge of sales or marketing or finance or training or recruiting or what, I don't know what you're in charge of, but I want you to look at the different modalities, the different things that you should be doing. Now, science says this. Science says we get 3 work periods during the day. We get a high level of energy and focus, followed by a drop-off called a trough, and then a rebound to higher energy, but not as high as that original energy output. The 3 stages of work tend to be what I would call butt kicking, right? Focused, intentional, goal-oriented work that's moving the needle. Down here, you should put like your admin work, your brainless, go fast and don't have to give too much effort or energy towards. And then the rebound, they typically say put your creative work there. So that's you creating plans, you creating logos, designs, relationships, it's you creating. And some people work better where they go create, admin, butt kick. But the majority of us, it's butt kick, admin, create. But we need these 3 in our space every day. Now think about what you're doing. Let's just imagine butt kicking time. What is it that you have to do when you are focused? Whatever that is, these are the 6 things that I'm going to ask you to look at. You ready? Material, resources, structure, pace, preference, and flow. And now we're going to break that apart a little bit. Material. What do you need for this to happen? I need a list of people to call, maybe. In the case of the real estate agent I was talking about, she needs the right kind of people to work with. As a coach, I need people with problems who are willing to share their problems openly. We all have a different material that releases us to solve a problem. So what is the material that's available? So the material is the need, but the material is also maybe it's time, it's money, right? And that's actually resources. Resources, it's the time, it's the money, it's the talent. It is the stuff around that you have available to point towards whatever that part of your day requires. So now you have your material, you have your resources, then it's your structure. How do you like to begin? How do you like to end? And can you, this is what most of us think of with a process, can you own the fact that this happens first, this happens second, this happens third, this happens fourth? Don't let your structure be like T-ball. If you've ever seen that, it's basically a little kid hits the ball and then runs all over into a variety of places that have no rhyme or reason. It's much better when the kids start to understand, oh, this is first base. Oh, this is second base. This is third base. And this is fourth base. So you have to know what that is for you. And so I would ask you, whatever it is that you're doing in your butt kicking time, what is that structure? So here might be a structure. I've worked with a lot of salespeople, so I'll give you a salesperson's structure. Material is a leads list. Resources, it is time. It's my telephone. It's the things, it's my environment. It's set and it's ready. It's a quiet environment. It's time. It's a phone. Structure. I look at my list. I tell myself, these people want to buy from me. I have stories of success out in front of me. I pick up the phone before I dial. I take a big breath, smile, tell myself again, these people absolutely need me. I hit send. And then when they pick it up, I follow this script. After I'm done going through, if they don't answer, I do this. If they do answer, I do that. Once we get through, I have a sales structure that I put them through. I put them into the system, and then I move on. That's one call. You might do that 50 times over the course of 3 hours. And then you need to debrief and move on. We'll talk about that in a moment. What is your pace? Your pace. I like to move fast. I like to move slow. I like to be deliberate. I like chaos. Chaos is one of my materials. I need peace. Peace is the way that I can think. What is your pace? Preference. I prefer to do it early in the morning. I prefer to do it over the phone. I prefer to do it on Zoom. I prefer that we write this out in an email. What are your preferences? Make that a part of your process. And finally, flow. Flow is that place where work becomes effortless. And I'll show you how to get there. And this is going to be the really cool part about the end of this lesson today, is we want to create processes that empower you to move through flow so that work is genius and work is effortless. And the more we can expand your zone of flow, the more value you bring to the planet. The more value you bring to the planet, the more you get rewarded as a byproduct. So here's my question to you right now. Looking at your calendar, what is the one process you would like to work on? What's the one process you would like to work on? Maybe it's the one that's bothering you the most. Maybe it's the one that is yielding the least results. Maybe it's the one that if you fixed it, it would create the most results. So what is that for you? For something to be a process, if you are doing it and you've done it over and over and over again, here is the rep, the REP, to see if this is something that is in a process that's worth keeping. Is it repeatable? Like, can you do it over and over and over again? Is it enjoyable? Like, are you happy to do it? And is it profitable? Is it something that works? If you've got the rep, the REP, repeatable, enjoyable, profitable, then what you have, my friend, is you have something that's going to help you to create the repeatable day. And that's the whole goal. We are creating a day that we can live over and over again that allows us to optimize our skill set to serve our people. As you find your micro moments, and micro moments are the moments within moments, I do want to bring you to the idea that every moment has a micro moment. So you notice before I was going through phone calls, you notice that I had a process. So the first one, you have to prime yourself. If you were a track star and you were about to run 100 meters or 200 meters, you'd want to stretch first. So whatever it is that you do in your profession, prime yourself. I prime myself sometimes with Wim Hof breathing. It opens up the mind. I learned from a neuroscientist recently that you can tap certain parts of your body, and it actually awakens your nervous system and your brain to be present in the moment that you're at, so you get optimum results. And then you do the thing. So whatever, it's the before, priming. During, it's the actual action itself. How do you do it? And then the after. What do you do afterwards? Well, if you're smart, you move on. You leave that last phone call, you leave your last activity exactly where it was, and you start your micro process, your micro moment over again. What are the places that you could employ the before, during, and after to create your REP, that repeatable, enjoyable, profitable moment, the repeatable day? What can you do with that? The final thing I want to show you is the elements of flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, other than having an amazingly difficult name to say, and I always feel like I mess it up in some way or another, he was one of the pioneers of the science of what's called flow. And I do believe that his research is not complete. There have been others who have been trying to complete this, but I want to leave you with this because this gives us, it really gives us a target so that our work and our play blend together. Here's why you want to be working from flow. Flow is when you feel the joy, the pleasure of the work. Flow, I believe, is our reward for connecting heaven to earth, from taking your genius and solving someone else's problems from that. Flow is when your work and your play are melted together. These are the 4 elements of flow, and I'll show you how you can actually create flow throughout your day. Number 1 thing you need is clarity of goals and immediate feedback. You need to know what exactly you're going for, and you need to be able to see quickly whether or not it's working. And so that's going to be matched with the next one, a high level of concentration on a limited field. So if you combine clarity of goals, immediate feedback, high level of concentration on a limited field, what you have is no multitasking. And I'm talking to you entrepreneurs out there. You can't be trying to win 10 different games at a time. Even chess masters might only be playing 2 or 3 games at a time at a very high level. So if you play too many games, you are always going to have processes that are competing against each other, and you can't win. So clarity of goals, immediate feedback, high level of concentration on the limited field, balance between skills and challenge. How do we do that? Well, it means don't do something that's too easy and don't do something that's too hard. You want to at the edge of your ability. Give yourself something to push for. Give your just a little bit beyond what you feel like is average effort. I've heard NBA coaches say, don't give me 100%, don't give me 110%. Just give me 80, 85%. Because I know that whenever I need the 100%, you're going to show up with 100. So balance between skills and challenge. If I were to put this in a visual for you, it would be when I was a kid, we had a dog, Sadie. And every day when we would go out to catch the bus for school, Sadie found a way to get out of the door before we did. We had to chase her down and catch the bus. It was like this daily game that we repeated, and it wasn't fun at the time. And Sadie would first shoot off and go out into the blue yonder. But after a minute or two, she would come back and get close enough to us where we could almost reach her. She'd run around in a circle, not in a way that would be easy for us to catch, in a way that was just beyond our ability to reach. That is where you want your challenge to be, right where Sadie was. The final thing is a feeling of control. You have to have a feeling of control to put yourself in the state of flow. If you're always being interrupted, if someone's always going to shoot you down, if there's something that is going to bring in an element that removes your control, you can't get into flow. Some of us have surrendered our control, and that's why I want you to own your process. I say when I reach out to people, I say when this happens, it's my choice when we move to phase 2. And so you being in that feeling of control is super important. And I'm gonna put Sadie in the house, and I'm gonna climb onto that bus with Mr. Gruff. This was a bus driver we had when I was a kid. No lie, his name was Mr. Gruff. And he would drive us to North Marion Middle School / high school. And if the bus got too loud, Mr. Gruff would pull the bus over and wait until we got quiet. And he wouldn't drive until he was ready. And so that's the place that you need to be in your process. Some ways that you can actually create flow for yourself. I like to use time. So if you look up the Pomodoro technique, I'll put a link in this as well. And if you want to take the challenge for the timer challenge, if you try to get the same task done in a limited time or a limited space, it can create amazing focus, and that focus can bring the best out in you. I have watched myself increase my productivity 50% in half the time, well, maybe like 70% of the time, by using a timer. And I've done this lots with clients as well. So the Pomodoro technique is one way of automatically generating flow. Deadlines is something you can do. And then always making sure that you're doing something from your natural skill set towards your people is the final way of putting yourself into flow. So there will be a challenge at the bottom of this lesson. If you are someone that is craving process in your life, if you've just been Mr. or Mrs. Random, this is your chance to grab hold of your design and look into yourself and say, what was the process that I was designed for? Hopefully this has helped you. Go out there, crush on your journey, and remember that the greatest part of you is what's inside. You need to dig deep, find the treasure, own it, so that the rest of us can grow from it as well.